everybody. Today we're going to tour Aruba by ATV. It's going to be cool. Tiny House Prepper.
Hi everybody, I'm Bill with Tiny House Prepper, and I am here in beautiful Aruba on the 2017 Thrive Life Fantasy Vacation Getaway. There are probably about 170 of us from Thrive Life that came down here to Aruba, and I'm very excited because tomorrow we are going to be, well, a small group of us, I don't know exactly how many, maybe 12 or 15. We are going to be renting ATVs and touring the entire island by ATV. It's going to cost me $100 to rent the machine, and we will have it for 10 hours so we can really explore the island with it. It's going to be so much fun. The interesting thing is that ATVs are legal on the street here. They have license plates, they have all of the lights that they need, and so you can legally drive them on the street. So there is a large portion of dirt that we can ride on, as well as on the highways as well. So I'm going to take you along. Come on with me, it's going to be fun. We are going to be touring Aruba by ATV. I'm very excited about it. Here's the group behind me. I think there's 13 of us. And right now we're doing paperwork, always paperwork, to be able to rent the machines. And then we'll get on the road. We're going to be all over the island.
The company where we're picking up the ATVs is actually located on the top deck of a 4-story parking garage. So we get them here and we have to drive all the way down through the garage to get down to the street.
Yeah.
Alright, all the ATV drivers are in. Heather, you got sunscreen with you? Oh.
Here you go, it's my piece. Okay. You got a game plan or where are you going? Wrap it all in.
All getting our ATVs. Organized chaos.
Heather, you have a nap unit, right?
Yes. And it's got a few.
I guess this is mine. Everybody ready for this? We're all sticking together, right? Yeah, because I don't know. I don't even have a map. I don't even know.
They got an app, so they're going to take us around.
One big motorcycle gang on the streets. We are now at the extreme north end of the island, and there's a small hill here a couple 100 feet tall, and there's a lighthouse on it. And this building right here apparently used to be the original residence and office for the caretaker. Now that building and the lighthouse were both in terrible disrepair, and apparently they had both been just renovated within the last couple of years. And that caretaker's building there now is a very nice restaurant. And you can see here the resort that we were staying in. And here is the lighthouse. On the extreme end of the island, it shows in all directions from this top of this little hill here. I did very little talking while I was recording up here because the wind was at 25 or 30 miles an hour, and for the most part you would never have heard me over the wind. Here comes the rest of our group. I had two cameras with me, and I was carrying them in a backpack on my back. And when I got here, I took the pack off and I set it on the back of the ATV, and I forgot it was there. And when I took off with that turn right there, it fell off the back. And I wouldn't even have noticed it, except somebody told me, and I had to go back and get it. I was so glad. That was probably $1,500 worth of camera equipment right there.
No, I wear it. I just forgot it was there. That would have been a disaster, man.
The biggest majority of this video was filmed with my GoPro, which was mounted on my helmet. So every time I turned my head, the camera turned. So the film is a lot jerkier. The videography is not up to my usual standard of excellence, and I apologize for that, but that's the way a GoPro mounted on your helmet works. Now at this point we left the pavement and we went onto the dirt, and it was probably at least the next 10 or 12 miles was on dirt, and that was so much fun. I was sorry when the dirt was over. Now at this point the dirt road opened up into a great big area the size of several football fields that was just dirt here. And all the guys were having so much fun doing power slides and donuts and everything else, and all the ladies just sat around on their ATVs watching us. It was kind of funny. We were all like a bunch of little kids. Now the first person going down the road is in the clear, and everybody else behind them eats dust. So here's one of our ladies. This is Debbie. She's wearing a kerchief that she bought, and it's got this big smiley face on the front of it. It's kind of funny. So I thought I'd go through this puddle, and I figured it was a couple inches deep. Well, it turns out it was almost a foot deep, and I got completely soaked by the mud coming up and splattering all over me. It was quite a shocker. I had to pull over and clean all the mud off of my glasses so I could see where I was even going. I had a hard time even finding a spot on the front of my shirt that was dry enough to clean my glasses. Now over on the west side of the island where the resort's all, it was all green and lush, and I found out later that that's because that's artificial. Everything was planted there. This is actually a desert island, as you can see here, and there were some places where it was really desolate, and there were cactuses growing all over the place. The west side also had very nice sandy beaches and very small to almost non-existent surf. It was more like a lake. But you'll see here later on the east side here, the shoreline is very craggy and rocky and cliffs and big surf, because that's the way the direction that the weather comes from. This was a rugged, rocky coastline, and the interesting thing was there were these rock cairns built all over the entire shoreline, built on top of bigger rocks, but they were all over. See this as far as you can see in both directions. I have no idea what it was all about. If we had been with a tour guide, they probably could have told us. Now here you can see that there are forests of cactus all over the place, and in this clip I did not mute the sound so you can hear the wind that was ever present, probably 25 or 30 miles an hour the entire time that we were there. Now I didn't know anything about this until we actually got here. There used to be a gold mine here in the late 1800s, and this is the remains of the gold milling building that they had here. This is the Bushiribana gold mill. Now we were on a self-guided tour. They just gave us a map. We didn't have a guide. Here was another group that was a guided tour, and I felt so sorry for them. They were like a bunch of lemmings. They were just driving along probably less than half the speed that we were, so how much fun could that be? And eating each other's dust, and they just kind of went along in one big group like that. I'm so glad we did it without a guide. Let me read the first paragraph for you. These impressive ruins are the only remains of the Bushiribana gold smelting plant. The plant was built in 1872 by the Aruba Island Gold Mining Company in the heart of the quartz mining area. In 1873, an engineer came to Aruba in order to install the machinery, which included a stamp mill, ovens, zinc tanks, freshwater tanks, and steam engines.
There's a pool down inside there where people are swimming.
Hands left.
There's still the ocean current in here because the water goes in and out, I guess, through a hole right there.
Don't go stiff like it. You can go touch bottom. Yeah, go back. Don't wait, just do it, yeah? Isn't that refreshing?
Yes, good job. You are way better than I was. So I want to do that.
So this ladder is the only way out of this hole where that swimming pool is. It's really rough going. A lot of people are having trouble with it. Not me, of course.
Now this was an interesting place. The ocean had somehow cut this natural channel back into here, and then there's this beach at the far end of the channel, and then someone had built this house here, and it looks like it's all boarded up and not being used anymore, but it's a very interesting place. Notice the Aruba desert here. It's completely desolate. Over here on the right hand side is one of those guided tours, and they're all lined up there like lemmings waiting for permission to be able to start to drive. I wouldn't want to do it that way. It's a really neat looking natural arch, and the water was breaking through it, and I wanted to stop and take pictures of it and go up to it. It looked really neat. But the group kept going that I was with, and if I had stopped, I would have been left behind. So I just had to keep on going. Practically this entire video was shot from my GoPro camera, which was mounted on my helmet. I don't have any videos of me actually riding past, so you can't ever see me riding. I really wanted to get some shots like that, but I was with this group that just kept moving. And in order to get shots like that, I would have to stop and set up a tripod and then drive past the camera and then go back and get the tripod. And by the time I had done that, I had been a mile behind my group, so I just had to keep going. And you get what you get with the GoPro. Now this was a place that was a little bit commercialized. It was just called Natural Bridge, and there were actually two of them. This was the smaller one, but the larger one was right around the corner to the right, and it had collapsed, so it was only the smaller one left. There was a snack bar and a gift shop here, and on the wall of the gift shop was this map of Aruba. The resort where we were staying was over here on the eastern end of the island, and then the lighthouse was up here at the northern tip of the island. That's where we left the pavement and headed for the dirt. And we were on the dirt all the way down to the natural bridge, which was right in here. And then this green part here is actually Aruba's National Park. This was supposed to be really beautiful. There were supposed to be a lot of caves and natural bridges and things, and we were going to go right through it. But when we got there, we discovered that it was $11 per person to go through the park. So we elected to go around it instead. So without a map, we worked our way around the national park, and this is when we actually got into all the residential areas that you'll see here soon. Our eventual goal was called Baby Beach, which was down here at the southern tip of the island. Now we're going through some of the residential areas, and the main roads that we're going through there were paved, and then all of the other roads were dirt. So you couldn't really tell which was the main one except for the paving, because they were all about the same width. And you notice the cactus all through here and the stone walls. Many places had either stone walls or fences made out of cactus planted close together. Now over here you see a stone wall on the right, and on the left you see the beginnings of a cactus fence that's just been planted. I couldn't believe how much some sections of this reminded me of Arizona. Those cactus are not saguaro, but that's what they look like from a distance. Now we are out of the residential areas and off of the dirt, and we will be on paved roads for the rest of the way to Baby Beach as we go down along the coastline on the western side of the island. We had to pull over and stop and wait for everybody to catch up because we were all strung out. Time for more sunscreen. It was really needed down there. I hardly ever use it, and I put it on me several times. It was really a trip to legally drive right down through town in what is usually just off-road vehicles. So we've arrived at the south end of the island, Baby Beach out there. We're going to look at later. Out there. But we've been riding all day. We stopped here for lunch.
There's the group. There's another beautiful beach with a refinery right behind it. I guess even in Aruba they need gasoline, huh?
Now at this point, after lunch, we were all the way down at Baby Beach at the south, the extreme southern tip of the island, and our resort is up in the north end, and the island, I believe, is about 20 miles long and 6 miles wide. So we went down basically on dirt on the whole eastern side of the island, and then the western side is the more populated area, so we'll be going back on roads the whole way. And but at this point I was hot, I was tired, I was exhausted. I don't do well with heat, and even riding the ATV at 40 miles an hour with the breeze going by, I was starting to suffer from some heat exhaustion, and I was just not thinking quite right. Well, I was thinking okay, but I didn't have energy to do anything. So at this point I basically stopped filming because I just couldn't do it. Also, most everybody else stayed here at Baby Beach and went into the water and cooled off, you know, which I probably should have done. It would have helped a lot. But I just don't enjoy salt water that much. I much prefer chlorine. Not that swimming in salt water is a problem, but when you get out and you don't have any way to rinse off, and then that salt dries on your skin and you get these little starbursts of salt all over your skin. I hate that, especially when you have to stay that way for hours. And I knew I was going to have to ride all the way back. It was an hour and 15-minute drive on the ATV to come back to the resort. So everybody else stayed there at the beach, and I went down there with them, and I just looked at that water, and even though it looked very cool and refreshing because I was overheated, I just couldn't make myself get in it because I was just dreading having the salt all over my skin. It makes my skin crawl. So I was just sitting on that blazing hot beach while everybody else was in the water, so I decided that I was going to head back by myself, because it was toward the end of the day and they were only going to be there another hour anyway. So I got on the ATV and I headed back. Now, before we left, the guy that we rented it from said, if you have any kind of a flat tire or mechanical problem, call me, and he said I will be there within a half hour. Well, that was, comforting to know. But I didn't have a map. I was following, he had given a travel guide to two people that downloaded into their cell phone, and they were using the GPS to use his travel guide. I didn't have any kind of a map. I didn't know really where I was going. Sorry. And so I just took off, and I just knew that if I kept the ocean to my left, I would eventually get back to the resort. So that's what I did. And about halfway back, all of a sudden I realized, wait a minute. Not only do I not have my cell phone with me, but I don't have the phone number of if I have any kind of a mechanical issue, if I have a flat tire or something. Here I am in the middle of Aruba with no way, if I have a problem, no way to contact anyone. I don't even know the name of the company that we rented the machine from. So all of a sudden I started sweating bullets. What if I have a flat tire along the way? But I just kept going, because what else could I do? And once I got to the airport, I had to pass the airport. I realized I was more than halfway back, so I started to relax a little bit. So I really enjoyed it. The trip back by myself, exploring the island by myself. I had to stop and get gas because we had to return them full. I spent $15 filling that thing with only a couple of gallons. Everything down here is liters, so I can't really relate to how much it costs. But so anyway, at this point, I'll show you a little bit of my return trip to the resort.
Everything in Aruba is in kilometers instead of miles. And at one point I hit 90 kilometers an hour, which I think is 57 miles an hour. I didn't even know these things could go that fast. But boy, I'll tell you what, it was really squirrely on that pavement with those big balloon tires. I really had to hang on. It was almost scary. They had these traffic circles, these roundabouts all over the island. And I discovered very quickly that I really had to slow down when I get into them, because with those big tires, I had to slow down and I had to lean way into the curve, or else the whole thing would have flipped. And if I haven't ever had any questions about whether it was legal or not, there's a cop riding right beside me, pulled up right in front of me. That was just really wild to be driving that thing right next to a cop and he didn't pull me over. This is downtown Oranjestad, or Orange City, named after the royal Dutch family, the House of Orange. We had just come down this road a couple days ago on the bus on the way from the airport to the resort. It was pretty cool to do it again on an ATV.
So I made it back safe by myself, turned the machine in, and it was like 4 or 5 block walk to get back to the resort. I was so happy to get into the air conditioning and into the shower and get all that grunge off of me and get my temperature back down again. But it was a fabulous trip. You know, I've done a lot of adventure and especially adrenaline sports when I was younger. I did a lot of hang gliding and skydiving and technical rock climbing, thousands of feet up in the air. As well as a lot of adventure like backpacking and things like that. And I have ridden a lot of motorcycles and a lot of dirt bikes, but I had never been on an ATV. And this wasn't an adrenaline thing like skydiving would be. But I think that hands down, this was one of the most pedal to the metal, all around days of fun I have ever had in my life. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And so I made the video for you guys, but I'm glad to have it for myself because I will look back on this video for years to come and remember the fun. So I hope you enjoyed coming along with me, and I hope you enjoyed it even half as much as I did. I don't see how you could, but because I enjoyed it so much. But thanks for coming along, and if you enjoyed this, and if you haven't subscribed yet, hey, now would be a great time to do it. And of course, please like the video. That really helps me a lot. And hey, I'll see you guys next time.